Guys, welcome and welcome back. Thank you for showing up today. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Jane. So today, guys, we'll be talking about the relationship and sex education still in the UK. The videos before this one, two videos before this one, I gave you like a summary of what the guidance states that kids in primary school and secondary school should be taught when it comes to relationship and sex education. This has been made mandatory in the UK. So if you have kids in the UK, you should know that your children will be taught about relationships and sex in primary and secondary schools. Now, like I mentioned in that video, if you have not seen it, please check it out, especially if you have kids in primary or secondary school. But you know that in the primary schools, the sex education is not compulsory, while the relationship education is. But in secondary schools, both are compulsory. So the relationship and sex education is compulsory for all secondary schools in the United Kingdom. Like I mentioned before, if you want to have a brief summary of what the guidance says, you can watch the videos before this one to get an understanding of what it says. But in this video, I'm going to tell you guys some questionable lines or phrases that I found in the guidance that are not so clear, and I think that parents need to pay attention to this, especially when they're handling their kids or when they're having conversations with their teachers at school around these areas or around these topics. Children are going to come home asking you questions that you may not be comfortable with, especially as an African parent, and you need to understand where these questions are coming from. These are the things that are being taught to them in the schools, and so you need to know how to approach this topic. Okay, now, like I mentioned, I'll just be critically telling you guys some of the things that I don't understand or that I don't think is clear, or I don't think that the UK government has put measures in place to, to curtail or to manage. And hopefully you guys can tell me what you think in the comment section. If it's something that you've also seen and you don't agree with, or something that is a cause for worry to you, let me know in the comment section. Okay, now before I go ahead to tell you guys these lines that I don't understand or that are totally unclear, I need to also mention that I think that there's some good points with the whole relationship and sex education thingy. Now, if you've watched that or if you know about this, you will know that they said they'll be teaching children about how to handle relationships with peers, with adults, how to manage online relationships. They'll be teaching them the dangers involved, like how people can be what they say or what they are not online. Try to get your information, use it in the way that you don't want, teaching them virtues like honesty, courage, integrity, stuff like that. Telling them how to respect one another, respect their friends, respect people's family and whatever works in their family, like stuff like that. Those are all good points. But there are some things that I also do not agree with, and that is what I'll be discussing in this video. Under the Secretary of State forward in the guidance, it states that the guiding principles have been that all compulsory subject content must be age and developmentally appropriate. I feel and I honestly strongly believe that it is the parents that can tell you if their children are ready to have these conversations. This is not talking about like the exceptions where some parents don't pay attention to their kids and may not know this, but even in the guidance, it states that the parents are the primary teachers of the kids. Now, if the parents are the primary teachers of the kids, why is it not the parents that should introduce this to the kids? Okay, now I think that the introduction of this whole sex thing to the kids is quite early, in my opinion. People have varying opinions on this. I think it's quite early, and I also think that if this is going to happen, you should allow the parents have the decision as to when this is taught to the kids, right? So even if the child is, let's say, 10 or 11 in secondary school, and you think that, oh, in secondary school they should know this stuff, what if the child is not mentally ready? What if the child is not developmentally ready and the parent knows this, but the parent sends their kids to school and then you teach them stuff that they can't handle, so they come back home confused and all that stuff? Yeah, that's one of the things where I feel like they say the content should be age and developmentally appropriate, but they don't actually have the information to know if that child is ready, except they go through the parents. And then it puts the parents in a very confusing situation, because you're saying you have conversations with the parents, you should work together with the parents, but what if the parent says my child is not ready to receive this, but then the government has said it is compulsory for secondary schools? Do you get my point? So you're saying this and then you're saying something else. You're saying work with the parents of the children to have to make this the best way possible, but then you're also putting some mandatory requirements that this should be done at a certain time. So it's just conflicting, in my opinion. Another thing that I find confusing is when it comes to the whole religion and faith aspect. Now, let me tell you guys some lines that are actually quite confusing to me. One, it says that in all schools, when teaching of these subjects or when teaching these subjects, religious background of all pupils must be taken into account when planning the teaching, so that the topics that are included in the core content in this guidance are appropriately handled. So you're introducing this and you're saying, okay, we have to teach the children sex education. We have to introduce like stuff like LGBT to them, because we're growing in a complex world now. They need to know that this is something that exists. I understand that. But then you're now saying you will put the religious background of the people into consideration. Like, how does that work? Some of these religions don't accept what you're teaching. So how is it possible that you're going to combine religion with this when it's clearly not aligning? Do you get my point? And that's another thing. I feel like I'm not even against this being taught, because this is the reality, this is what happens, so the children should be aware that this happens, right? But then you go ahead and you say that the religious background of the children will be considered. It is not entirely true, because if that is being considered, then religions who are against same-sex marriage, which by the way is one of the accepted marriage types of marriage structures in the UK, religions like that are against that, how do you now combine both of them? Another thing, it says that this kind of aspects should be explored in faith perspectives in some other topics. In fact, let me read it how it is stated there. It says that schools may teach faith perspectives. In particular, schools with a religious character may teach distinctive faith perspective on relationships, and balanced debates may take place about issues that are seen as contentious. Example is reflecting in matters of relationship and sex. Now, my understanding of this is that you're saying that in some other courses or in some other topics like the religious education, you can explore faith perspectives on these things you're teaching. Now, are you saying that in the religious studies, you're going to have to be teaching something that is contradictory to what is being taught in the relationship and sex education class? See why I said it's a bit conflicting. Now you're saying that, okay, you can explore faith perspectives, especially maybe like schools that have this orientation, which maybe like your Catholic schools and all. But then you're now saying that they can have a healthy debate on this. But then when they go to another class, you tell them this in the same class, like, so to say, like they're in the same level, they attend this class. It says that this is normal, this is accepted, you should do this, you should do that, respect this, respect that. And then they go to another class and then they're saying something different because that religious study is against what is being taught in the other class. It's just a bit confusing to me. Like, I could be wrong, so if you think that I'm just confused in my head, please put it in the comment section and tell me what you think about this. Now, this is just me saying stuff that I think that you guys should pay attention to, especially as parents in the United Kingdom who have kids in secondary or primary school. But then again, I could just be wrong. Okay, so tell me what you think in the comment section. Another point that was very confusing to me when I saw it is this one. It says schools should ensure that the teaching is sensitive and age appropriate in approach and content. At the point where the schools consider appropriate, they should ensure that the content is fully integrated into the program of study for this area of curriculum rather than delivered as a standalone unit or lesson. So my main confusion with this statement is it says it should be fully incorporated into the program and not just delivered as a standalone or unit. But what exactly is the content? Like, there's no explanation as to what exactly would these children be taught on LGBT. I understand how you can preach respect. Everybody should be respected irrespective of whatever their sexual orientation is, whatever it is, everybody should be respected, right? But then you're saying that this content, the LGBT content, should be fully integrated into the program, but you're not telling us what exactly the content is. How do we know that this is not indoctrination? Like, indoctrination, guys, is basically telling someone an idea or continuously telling someone an idea until they accept it without questions. How can we as parents, or how do people as parents know that this is not what is being done in this class or in this session? You don't mention what it is under LGBT that should be covered or not. So if you talk about respect, talk about like acceptance of everybody. That is understandable. You've mentioned that in other sessions, but in this session is just saying the content of LGBT should be fully integrated into the program and not as a standalone. Again, the confusion is what exactly is the content. Parents need to know what you plan to teach, and I know that the government may say this is left to the schools, but there's also should be like a standard so that when this is broken, or when this rule is not followed, you can know where to start from. You get? So this is another thing that I find questionable with this guidance. So we've gone past the stage of should this happen or should this not happen, because this is already happening. This is already being rolled out. This is being taught in schools, and also as parents, what do you do? In my advice, in my opinion, or my advice to all parents, as to myself even, is to follow up, like follow up with your kids, follow up with your schools. Now these schools, some of them are very open about this, some of them are not sneaky about this. They tell you what they intend to teach. They even send out like meeting updates or whatever for parents to come, and they have a conversation as to what will be taught to the kids, the materials they will use. But some schools are not as open as others, right? Some people have said, oh, they didn't receive anything from the school saying what will be taught or anything like that, and all they know is that the children come back home already having questions as to what was taught already, and then the parents maybe did not have an idea as to when was this meeting scheduled. And also, as parents, you need to pay attention. If you have like notifications from your school, if you're using like the dojo app, check to see if there's a notification from your school asking for a meeting, so that you know. And even if you don't have these notifications for meetings, you can ask the school. You can actually confront them and ask them that what is it that you guys teach, as in what is stated in your policy regarding your relationship and sex education. I actually think it's something that people should do, because we're not here in the UK when this was rolled out. Some of these policies have already been put in place, but if you're a concerned parent, you can reach out to your school and find out what it is. Ask them who handles this, because some of them use third-party agencies, and that's another thing I want to mention in this video. Now, some of these agencies don't have like the moral beliefs that you have. They don't see things the way that you see it, and some of them don't even see anything wrong in the materials that they use and all. So you also should have this conversation with the school. If it's a third party, if even if they have the materials already, you may ask to see it, because that's when you now see like funny materials flying around. Because I've seen like some materials that, I mean, I probably will talk about some of the questionable books that I've seen that people or that schools use in teaching kids relationship and sex education. But as parents, you just need to be vigilant, okay? Pay attention. I know that it can get busy, especially as immigrants. You need to work, you need to do this, you need to balance this and all, but also pay attention, because your kids also matter, okay? So conversations with them, the kids, conversations with your schools, that's the kids schools, is very important. So these are the things that I wanted to mention in this video, guys. Yeah, let me know what you think down in the comment section. If you've gone through the guidance, if you have not, there's a simpler version on my channel, a summary of both of them that you can just watch, and then let me know what you think. Okay, thank you for watching to this point. If you are not subscribed yet, please click on the subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up, share this video with your friends and loved ones who are in the UK or who are raising kids in the UK, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, bye guys.